everyone, and welcome to the Dribble Podcast, your home of basketball in WA, with an inside look at the Perth Wildcats, Perth Lynx, and WA basketball throughout the 2021-22 seasons. My name is Craig O'Donoghue from the West Australian newspaper, and throughout this year, I'll be joined by a host of guests to provide you with as much insight and entertainment as your basketball brain can handle. In this episode, we're going to head overseas and speak to two men at very different stages of their basketball lives. We will start with five-time Perth Wildcats championship coach and current Toronto Raptors assistant coach Trevor Gleeson during a small break in his hectic schedule. And then we're off to Ohio to speak to WA teenager Anthony Gomes, who has been living in America for the past 3 years looking for his break, and he's currently at the Spire Academy. But first, wasn't that a dramatic weekend for the Wildcats and especially for import Vic Law? He got sucked in by the Brisbane Bullets on Friday night, headbutted Deng Deng, got reported, avoided suspension, copped a $1,000 fine, celebrated his 26th birthday, and then dominated the Tasmania Jack Jumpers with a double-double. It was a weekend where the Wildcats reminded everyone of their talent. An 83-70 win over the Bullets, followed by a 101-83 win over the Jack Jumpers, lifted them to the top of the NBL ladder and gave them a 4-1 record as they prepare to move interstate until our borders open. The bad news was that Todd Blandfield re-injured his left knee. The good news was that Michael Frazier showed why the club was so excited about adding him to the roster as he finally played after an injury-interrupted start to his life in Perth. And Wilbur the Wildcat produced one of the great cameos of the year while mocking Deng Deng's diving effort. The thousands of people at RSC Arena did not stop laughing as he rolled and rolled and rolled around on the floor. But when we look back at that incident, I've got to say, I don't think the NBL had a great weekend when it came to its game review panel. Let's not act like Law hit Deng with enough force to hurt him, but headbutting is a no-go zone in sport, and Law is damn lucky to have avoided suspension. And while we're at it, this isn't soccer. I don't want to see anyone throwing himself to the ground and punching the court in pain when you haven't really been touched. Deng, like Law, deserved to be cited, so a message could have been sent to the rest of the competition because faking is just as bad as doing something like Law did because it could have ignited a brawl. But while all that was going on, the most successful coach in Perth Wildcats history was plying his trade in the NBA. He is this man.
10 weeks ago, they were bottom of the NBL ladder. Today, they are NBL champions.
Congratulations, Trevor Gleeson, the 2021 NBL Coach of the Year.
This is the NBA. You know, this is the pinnacle. This is the best competition in the world, the best players in the world. I can't put my head on the pillow and say I'm going to turn that off or down.
Yes, he is a five-time NBL championship winning coach, a dual NBL Coach of the Year. He's been in charge of more than 460 NBL matches, and now he's an assistant coach with the Toronto Raptors under NBA championship winner Nick Nurse. Trevor Gleeson, welcome to the Dribble Podcast.
G'day, boys. How are we?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good to hear from you over there in Canada again. You've been overseas for about 4 months now. Has the novelty worn off yet, or is it still the most epic job ever?
Well, look, when you line up to play, to coach against teams, and just a couple of days ago we played against Kevin Durant. So, the novelty's there when you play against them first, but then the next time that you play them, it's you're trying to come up with plans how to stop them, which is, an arduous task at the best of times, but it's fun doing it.
Now, Canadian coach Nick Nurse was very keen to get Trevor Gleeson over. They met while he was coaching Canada in Perth a couple of years ago, ahead of the World Cup qualifiers, and this is why he wanted to get Gleeson as coach.
He's got a lot of different experiences as a head coach. I value that in my staff, that somebody that can kind of give you a viewpoint from all sides of it and knows kind of what it feels like. He's really smart and a really good coach, and he's won a lot. I like all those characteristics.
So talk to us about your role. Tell us what you do in the build-up to games, and then what's your role on the bench on game day?
Yeah, well, it's pretty full on. It's like Coach Nurse has us rotating. So at the start of the season, I was doing offense. So I would coach offense, then special teams, and now I'm on the defense, which is a little bit more comfortable. So leading into the next game, obviously I've got to watch the opposition that we're doing, come up with a game plan to play against them, put the strategies in place for the personnel and how we're going to defend people, and then post-game, obviously in-game, make the adjustments, the recommendations, and then post-game you do quite a comprehensive review, so we have it for next time that we play against them, and then you're moving on to the next game. So it's there's not that much time to breathe, really.
It's an extraordinary schedule. That we look at it as extraordinary. I mean, so we're talking on a Friday morning Perth time. We're obviously doing this midweek because Trev has games galore, and this is the best window that we've been able to find to get him. But you've played 28 games since October 21. You would have played 28 games in 5 months in the NBL. So how much do you pass on to the players when you're doing those reviews? Can you look back to them and say, look, this is what happened in the last game? Or is it all about the next scout for them? Do they need to be uncluttered minds and looking to the future all the time?
Yeah, look, as soon as the game is finished, it's move on to the next. We do a review for our internal use. We revamp that when the next time we play that team, but we very rarely will we go back and look at the last game unless we have a prolonged period of 2 or 3 days in between games. We play 3, most of the times 4 games a week, and you throw travel in there as well. So yeah, it's a pretty hectic schedule, and we try to keep the guys, the players, just focused on the next game and how they can get better.
That's using a lot of clock here. Mills dribbling around, finds Griffin, fake, running out of time. Mills, one dribble. Yes! We are tied at 120. Patty Mills.
You had a pretty brutal finish to your most recent game against the Brooklyn Nets. Patty Mills sent it to overtime, and then Brooklyn went on to win that game. But you couldn't miss you in your defensive stance on the sidelines as Mills was taking that shot. You mentioned that you are in charge of the defence now. You look like the head coach again, back in the stance that I've seen at the Perth Wildcats many times.
Yeah, well, first thing I said, don't leave Patty, don't leave Patty, don't leave Patty. And it was we left Patty open, and that's what Patty does. He's proved it time and time again, and he makes big shots. And we weren't up to the challenge of stopping that. If we had stopped in that possession, we probably would have won the game. And they had a lot of guys out for COVID restrictions. We've got 4 starters out and coming off a back-to-back. So I guess there was a little bit of fatigue for both teams in there. But, didn't get the chocolates on that occasion.
What's it been like as an Australian going over there and catching up with all the other Aussies who are in the league? There's obviously a clear bond between all of the Australians around the world. And you've already had the Patty Mills situation on the weekend, who you coached. Joe Ingles you've coached against this year, and Josh Giddey as well. So what's it been like as an opposition coach and also as wanting to catch up with them when you get the other opportunity?
Yeah, I guess the hardest thing is that the only time you really catch up with them is before the game. With Patty and with Joey when we played the Utahs, we played the West Coast team twice. The East Coast teams we play 4 times. So yeah, it's a little bit cause you're always on to the next thing. You got to get the scout for the next game, so time is pretty precious. So we only really catch up before the game, and it's very quickly, and just say, hey, how you doing? Hope the family's well. Good Christmas. See you next time, and then that's about it.
So the Raptors are currently 11th with a 13-15 record. It's a much younger team than what we saw when they were obviously in championship contention. But there's a bloke called Scotty Barnes who's got the greatest Australian name for someone who isn't from over here. Tell us a bit about him and tell us a bit about some of the other guys who you're working with.
Yeah, Barnesy. We get him Australian localised. But yeah, look, he's just a phenomenal athlete. He's 1 year out of college. He only played 1 year at college. He's just a physical a beast out there, and he's just a sponge at the moment, learning everything, learning the professional game. And I think last year he only played 24 games for the whole year, and like you mentioned, we're on our 26th or 27th, 8th game for the season. So it's just to see the ability, the just natural talent of Scotty, and now we're bringing that work ethic up and bringing his skill level up, and you can just see he's gradually improving every time he steps across the court, and that's exciting.
You mentioned the COVID stuff before, so we've just witnessed some real drama here with the Australian Test match against England with Pat Cummins. The captain ruled out of the second test because he was a close contact of a positive case after sitting at the table in a restaurant next to this guy. We were seeing AFLW matches being cancelled, no more sport being played in Perth. It's all a bit chaotic over here, and we're a long way behind what the situation is where you're living. What advice would you have for Australian athletes who are trying to manage their lives in what is now becoming a COVID community environment?
Yeah, it's just being smart when you go out. Like over here, they pretty much live with COVID. There's still cases, and obviously there's been a recent spike up the last couple of weeks. You know, we've had staff and players being on isolation. They haven't tested positive, but they're around positive COVID people, and it's more so those people will isolate for anywhere from 5 to 7 days, and once they pass the test, they're back in. But right now, the NBA has some rules in place. Like, as soon as we go to our practice facility, I have to do a COVID rapid test, and I have to wait before that test gets back before I'm even allowed her in the building. And then once I'm in the building, I have to do another test, a more complete test that says I'm okay, and we get that back in 24 hours. And, you know, doing 2 tests a day at the moment. I just had a booster shot. Everybody in the NBA, or the staff anyway, had to get the booster shot before December 17th, or there had to be more, you know, you test every day. But we have to test every time that we travel to America, and test again every time we come back to Canada. So it's every road trip that we have to do a dual test, just for the immigration laws of between the border, which is, you know, I've lost count how many times I've tested for COVID.
So how conscious do you have to be then of what you're doing when you have downtime? You can go to the shops, or can go to a bar, or can do whatever you want to do in that probably half-hour window you've got, given how busy you are. How conscious are you of not contracting the virus?
Yeah, well, look, if you go to a restaurant, you'll go to a restaurant with there's not many people sitting close by, and you've got masks on. Everyone wears a mask everywhere they go inside, and even just in the last 3-4 days, just with Brooklyn have broken out with COVID. Even the game before we played Sacramento, the coach is out now with COVID. So we're pretty much at practice with the mask on everywhere. Only the players don't have masks exercising. So yeah, look, you're mindful of it. You don't go in to put yourself in harm's way, and you know you're going to get it at some stage. One would think just with the pure numbers, but you try to just to be smart and make sure you're washing your hands and staying your distance and wearing a mask.
So obviously, the government in Ontario has just announced that there will be a 50% capacity for all venues in Toronto, Ontario, if you have more than 1,000 people. So there's obviously a bit going on over there. It sounds like it's just a way of life now, and that if a player gets it, there's no shame on them. It's just you just have to live with it, and as you said, expect to get it.
Yeah, and you know the Raptors had a lot of players had it last year. I think they had 7 players, and they had to you know be isolated, and coach nurse couldn't coach because staff was in there and they were close contact. So these guys over here are pretty much familiar with it, and it's just if there's symptoms, you go straight away and to get tested, and you know we try to make sure if that you are sick and have symptoms, you're staying away from the team until you know there's 2 negative tests, and then you're good to go.
It does sound like you're living in a totally different world to us, and when you look at the weather, it's definitely a totally different world. You're about to expect 13 centimetres of snow over the weekend, the weather forecast says, and it's going to be -1 and will feel like -7. Like, geez, it sounds fun outside.
Yeah, all the players and the coaches were laughing at me because I was wearing shorts, you know, just recently to practice and on the plane on the way back, and I just didn't think it was cold. But then the snow came, I quickly rugged up, and they were laughing that I changed so quickly. But yeah, look, I'm not looking forward to it. The snow's really good while it's falling on the ground, and it's nice and pretty and white. But when it starts to freeze over and starts turning into slush, it's not that much fun.
Have you had any opportunity at all to see any of the Wildcats playing amid your busy schedule?
No, I jump online and check it, and obviously check your articles out every now and again, and just to keep in touch and, you know, reach out to a few of the boys that are injured and wish them good luck for the season at the start. I just didn't want to be a hindrance to them and keep in their way, but yeah, I certainly hope they do very, very well, and just keep an eye on them at a distance, but I haven't had fortunate time to watch a game yet.
There's an irony that you've moved to Canada and the Wildcats hired a Canadian coach in Scott Morrison. Now, I was fortunate to travel with the Wildcats to America for their NBA preseason, and I was staggered by the amount of people who Trev actually knew. It felt like everywhere you went, you had a contact within the country. Did you have any contact with Scott at all throughout your time of going to G Leagues and Summer Leagues and different things like that? Was there any relationship between you two?
No, it's funny. It's normally in those circles, it's only 1 or 2 phone calls that you know somebody or somebody knows somebody, but I haven't run across Scott at all. So yeah, I was really totally unfamiliar with him, and obviously the people here at the Raptors do know him, and he's stepping into a great situation, and I'm sure he's going to have a lot of success, and certainly wish him all the best. And I reached out to a couple of people here and said if he ever wants some advice or help, that I'm more than welcome to give him a call. But look, he's got a great NBA record. He's well and truly knows what he's doing, so I'm sure he's going to do a great job there.
There's obviously everyone in the NBL, or most players in the NBL, want to get to the NBA, and there's a big difference between being an elite NBL player and even getting a chance to get to the NBA. What's the biggest difference? What do they have to be able to do that will be the difference between being a great player here and just getting that opportunity to knock the door down?
Yeah, and that's the key is getting the opportunity. Like, there's a lot of good players, and I said this for most of my career, there's a lot of NBA players that are not playing in the NBA, and prime example is Bryce, just his skill set. It's been at the right place, and when you get an opportunity, go for it. Normally here that you get the opportunity, the lower level, which means lower level pay, and you might not get any minutes, but it's how you work your way through it. And look, we got one of the best players here, Freddie Van Vliet, started off, didn't get drafted, and played in the G League, and came through that process, and now he's getting $20+ million a year, and he's our starting point guard. It's just not letting people say no and just working until you get a break. Look, it's tough. You got millions of players trying to get to the best league in the world, and the cream rises to the top, and you're going to get knocked back, and some teams are don't like you, and other teams are going to like you, and it's a little bit of timing as well, but you certainly have to do the work and prepared to be knocked back a number of times before you break in.
What's the travel side of things like, Trevor? We're going into America and out all the time. You mentioned that there's the COVID stuff, but just crossing international borders, we know how difficult it is at the best of times. Does it add to the travel load like you used to do when you were going to New Zealand and back, or is it a lot easier for you now with the way that the NBA is set up?
Mate, it's so easy. Obviously the travel is 42 games on the road, but the travel, I'll give you a rundown that we drive to the airport to a chauffeur-driven area, drop the cars off, walk on to the plane. That's a private jet. Everybody's got business seats on there. Roughly around 65 people travel with us. And over here, it takes about an hour and a half to get to our recent trip to New York. We get off the plane, and there's we put our bags on the plane. We get off on the plane, and there's 3 coaches there waiting for us. One for the players and coaches, one for the support staff, and one for the media. We don't see our bags at all, and we drive to the hotel, and all of a sudden, maybe our bags are in the hotel rooms. There's a convenience without a question, and you have to still go through the international borders, and normally they come and meet us at the plane. A few occasions that we have to go to a terminal with the US if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, that we have to go through, and then a special person will come and see our passports and make we're all right, and off we go. It's a little stress-free travelling in the NBA than domestically back home.
It sounds like a pleasure. It's a good way to travel, actually. Have you gone with maintaining your Australian sporting traditions? Did you watch the AFL Grand Final?
I was very fortunate they had it on TV here. So I sat up, watched it, and it was worked in perfectly that it was a day off. I watched a fantastic game, couldn't believe it. And, it was, the second half wasn't that good, but it was a great game, especially being in Perth. And my wife and son were at the game, and they were texting me through it. So it was, it's on my bucket list to go an AFL Grand Final. And hopefully one day soon I can do that.
One of my bucket lists was to get to Madison Square Garden when we were in New York a couple of years back, and that was good fun. And you were there on Melbourne Cup Day. Did you try to get some people together to organise a sweep?
I couldn't watch the Melbourne Cup. I listened to it on radio, though. But, our coach, Nick Nurse, actually owns a couple of horses, and so we often have a conversation about the horses that are going around. And we went to a racetrack in Iowa for our pre-season with the coaches. So that was especially when they had a 250-metre race. It was a bit of a crazy. But, Madison Square Garden's iconic, and I've been doing like a tourist thing or a holiday thing. As soon as we get to arena, I go and make a basket. It was good to get one at the Madison Square Garden, and especially at the Boston, with such history of a basketball royalty. You're going to some venues that you only see on TV.
It sounds absolutely amazing. What are you doing for Christmas? It's going to be a white Christmas, obviously. How are you going to handle that day?
Yeah, well, actually, we're travelling that day. We travel to Cleveland. We play them on Boxing Day. So, yeah, we'll travel on the 25th. Normally over here, I'm not sure in Canada, but certainly in America, the Christmas Eve is a big family get-together. And then, obviously, Santa comes that night, and then Christmas Day they get out and about. But, yeah, Christmas Eve's a big dinner over here. So I assume the same thing is in Canada, but I'll have to experience it, then I'll let you know.
We have a segment on the Dribble called This or That, where you can't sit on the fence. You have to talk about exactly what you think of an issue. And Christmas Day, it's an NBA tradition, but we don't do it in Australia. And there has been talk that some sports want to maybe bring in the idea of playing on Christmas Day. What do you think of that concept? Do you like the idea of playing on Christmas Day, or do you think it should be left to family?
Yeah, no, in Australia, definitely the family. I've been a part of Christmas Day over here when I was in the CBA. Big event, but it's different when you got 6-7 inches of snow and people are stuck in houses. They want to get out to Christmas night and socialise. But in Australia, it's a little bit different with the culture, and I don't think personally, I don't think there should be any sporting event on Christmas Day.
Nah, that's brilliant. Well, look, thanks, Trev. Really appreciate you jumping on amid this crazy schedule that you're living. It sounds like it's an amazing life and you're living your dreams, which is exactly what everyone wants. So we wish you all the best. We hope the Raptors go really, really well. Hope you continue to enjoy it. And I'm sure everyone is watching from afar. So thanks for joining us on the Dribble.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say thank you to all the people that have reached out and sent best wishes. I haven't had a chance to get back to everybody. And even Jack, our old owner, reached out a couple of weeks ago just to see how I was doing. It's nice to know that people still care and still staying in touch. And it's really touching. So thank you very much.
All right, brilliant. Merry Christmas.
Cheers, mate. You too.
Now, as we mentioned during that interview, Trevor was available for us on Friday because he had a game scheduled against Orlando on our usually recording day, which is Tuesday. Well, COVID continues to wreak havoc on the world and on sport, and that match was actually postponed because the Magic had too many players in COVID protocols. Toronto did beat the Golden State Warriors on Sunday. Steph Curry was rested from that game for the Warriors. But a man we spoke about with, Trev, our new mate Barnesy, scored 21 points, had 8 rebounds and 6 assists. So good to see the Raptors having a big win there. Now on to the votes for the Dribble Podcast MVP Award from the weekend. The votes for the win over Brisbane are 1 vote, Luke Travers only scored 2 points, but had 9 rebounds and 4 assists while having a big impact at key times. 2 votes, Bryce Cotton scored 29 points and put the team on his back after being furious at being knocked to the ground with no action from the refs. But for 3 votes, it was Captain Jesse Wagstaff, the best player over 4 quarters, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists and 2 steals. When the Bullets were playing their best, Wagstaff was the one who kept the Wildcats in touch, so it was a fantastic performance from him. And the votes from the win against the Jack Jumpers are 1 vote to Michael Frazier II, 13 points and 8 rebounds from almost 18 minutes on the court. He had a great impact in his first game as a starter. 2 votes, well, I've given it to Vic Law for his 32 points and 12 rebounds. He was the player of the game on the TV, but I thought when you look back, he scored 17 points and had 5 rebounds in the last quarter, which means that most of his work was done once the result was in the bag. So I've given him 2 votes, and the 3 votes is to Bryce Cotton because he set up the victory and finished with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals, which means after 5 games, Cotton leads the Dribble MVP Award with 10 votes, while Law is in second spot on 8. And now we're going to do something different and remain overseas. And one of the great things about basketball is you can travel the world chasing your dreams. And a young man doing this at the moment is Anthony Gomes, a West Australian who attended Chisholm Catholic College. Thursday this week will be exactly 3 years since he departed for America. So let's see what his life has been like and have a quick listen at what it's like to be in America.
Anthony Gomes, he inbounded it, they gave it back to him, they let him go to work.
He's averaging about 15 points a game in this quality, which it's top 10. It might be top 5. He's been scoring every game.
Yep.
Anthony Gomes, welcome to the Dribble Podcast.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for jumping on. I got to say, the concept of moving to America to complete high school and chase your basketball dreams would sound outlandish to a lot of people. You're 15 when you moved. How has it been?
It's been great. When I first moved, it was a little hard moving away from family and friends like that. But then as I mingled in America, I met lots of friends, coaches. I also had house parents who treated me like their own children. So it was made really comfortable for me while I was here.
So your mum, Julie, played basketball. Your dad, Melroy, played cricket, and you were playing wobble for the Stirling Senators. So it's pretty clear that there was a family background in sport. But the conversation with your parents when you're 15 years old and wanting to move to America, talk me through how that went.
Yeah, so when I was young, I always had a dream of playing pro sports. Every little kid has their own dream, but I got the opportunity through Insight Sports Recruitment to be able to actually live out that opportunity. And so I took it. It was obviously a challenging decision to make, leaving my family and stuff like that. But I wanted to pursue something that I've always dreamt of. So that's how I made my decision.
And you went to Ohio and the Andrews Osborne Academy. And I was looking at it online before. It's absolutely amazing. It looks like a combination of quaint country elegance when it comes to the boarding facilities and absolute opulence when it comes to the sporting facilities. The basketball stadium looks amazing. The Gridiron Stadium on an indoor field is outrageous. And there's tennis courts, baseball diamonds, a performing arts theatre, an observatory. It's not a standard high school, is it?
No. Well, in America, it's a standard high school, but I tell you, it's completely different from Australia. I've never seen nothing like that. And when I first got there, I was like, wow. So I was pretty lucky.
So what do you do there other than basketball? Is there an opportunity to chill out with friends there, or once you finish classes, is it all basketball?
So I'll give you a rundown through my day. So I would go to school I would have breakfast from anywhere from 6 till 8, and then classes would start from 8 till 12. Then after classes, we would have lunch, and then after lunch, we would usually have either a lift or a basketball workout, and those two would range from 1 o'clock all the way till 5 o'clock. And so after that, we would have dinner, and then after dinner, we would have a study hall where we have to go to our dorms and get our work done and stuff like that. And then after that, we pretty much have the rest of the time to chill. But that's a weekday. During the weekends, it's a little bit more relaxed. We would have morning practices, we would have brunch, and then the school would usually have trips for us to go on during the day, usually to the movie theater or the mall or something like that. And they would also take us to roller coaster parks and theme parks and stuff like that. So
there's plenty going on, that's for sure. I've got to say, the first thing I noticed about you is you sound very American all of a sudden. You're saying mall. You've got you picked up the American accent.
I do. That's what happens when you stay here for 3 years. You kind of lose it.
Did you notice it going gradually, or did it all of a sudden one day you just sound American?
I did. So after the first couple months, I started to lose it. I started to notice it myself, because everyone that I met in America they were all I don't know, they were all over my accent. They loved it. And then it kind of grew away from me. I still have it for some words, but every time I go back home, it kind of comes back a little bit.
Now, this is where your move gets really interesting. You moved to the Spire Academy for a postgraduate season. Now, a lot of Australians may not realise how significant Spire has been to basketball over here already, but it has had an impact on the NBL, and that has been through this man.
Ball driving. Keep it going. LaMelo, hesitation, step, wraps it underneath. Oh, my goodness. They need a 3-ball. Oh, no. LaMelo!
Yes, Spire Academy is the same program that LaMelo Ball chose to utilise before moving to the NBL to play for the Allura Hawks, and now, of course, he is dominating in the NBA. So how much did his name impact your decision to go to Spire and chase this dream?
So I actually heard about Spire first because of him playing high school. I actually didn't know about Spire, but then it kind of changed after he left, and so we had all different coaches and different people running it and stuff like like that. So I kind of looked into it just because, like, obviously LaMelo went there, and then Insight also helped me pick out Spire just because it fitted what I liked. It fitted like the coaching stuff. The school was really nice, and just the area around it is pretty good too. So those factors helped me pick out Spire too.
So the team that you play in Spire includes players from Belgium and Italy and the UK, but there's also players who have travelled from inside America, from New York and Chicago, Mississippi and Denver. What lures all these people from all around the world and all around different parts of America to chase their success at Spire?
So part of being a prep school is you can recruit. So the coaches, Coach Sparrow, Coach Dooley, and Coach Gonzalez, they all recruit around the U.S. and also around the world, and they build a team that they think will fit how they coach and how they play. So it's really easy when you have a prep school because you can kind of build your team around what your coaching is like.
What's it done for your game? Where are you at with your development at the moment, and what are you focusing on to become the player you want to be?
Since I've left, I've developed a lot. Just like also in the sense of IQ, I've developed a lot. Obviously, the rules are different around here, so I had to adjust to that too. But skill-wise, I've just been like going up the whole time. The coaching is really good. And also there's also a lot of facilities to help us get better, like the weight room, the shooting machines, the guns, everything like helps us get better. So it's kind of on you if you don't improve while you're here.
So there's YouTube clips of you available online, and if people want to go and look at how you play. But before they go there, explain to us, what type of player are you? What are your biggest strengths?
My biggest strengths are definitely shooting. I'm a shooter. I also love to facilitate, kick out to my teammates because draw defenders. I can bring the ball up when you need me to. I can kind of play any wing position just to run the plays, get the shots up, make the shots too. So yeah. He's
a very good shooter. I've had a good look at him online. And he says he's a pretty good shooter or a handy shooter. He's a very good shooter. That's the one thing that he can certainly do.
I'd also consider myself pretty athletic. I got a 40-inch vertical too. So
a 40-inch vertical. Okay, that's about a meter. I think it works out to. So that's rather handy. You're going to need that, I've got to say, because
I kind of forgot the metric system, to be honest.
You're 5'10" according to the website for Spire, which is only a couple of inches taller than me, and that's less than about 176, 178, I reckon, in our system. So you're going to need the athleticism and that leap.
Around that, I think, yeah.
Yeah, how important is it to have that athleticism then, given you be coming up against a lot of guys who are significantly taller in the American system?
Yeah, so like having that athleticism is really handy for me because obviously in America the average height is like I think 6 foot, but when you get to basketball it's definitely like 6'5", 6'6", and there's also a lot of most good teams have a lot of good 7-footers around the rim protecting it. So having the athleticism to like jump and like maneuver my way around all the traffic in the paint is also really helpful.
There's going to be plenty of youngsters out there in Australia with dreams in their eyes, thinking of hassling their parents to do something like head overseas and chase their dreams like you are. What's your advice for any youngster who wants to pursue this path?
Follow your dreams, follow your heart, whatever. If you want to do it, now's your opportunity. There's no going back. You got to either choose to do it or not.
And what's next for you? Do you reckon? What's your next pathway at 18? What do you want to do next year as part of your progression, and where do you see yourself ending up?
I really want to do college in America. I'm talking to a few schools right now. I'm trying to play basketball too while majoring in engineering. I want to do all 4 years at college, and then after that, I want to have my degree and then hopefully play pro basketball somewhere.
So one of the things right now is it is dead set freezing in Ohio at the moment. There's overnight lows below zero, but you've just got back from Florida where you're playing, and it must have been a lot nicer over there just with the weather. But Florida's an amazing place. Tell us what it was like to be down there and playing games and just enjoying your life.
So we actually went to 3 places in Florida. We went to Daytona Beach, we went to Orlando, and seeing Disney World was pretty fun too. And then we went to Tampa too. And all 3 places were really nice. When we were in Daytona Beach, we had a beachside hotel. It was super nice, just playing in the beach and like it being really warm, obviously, compared to Ohio. But also, we played really good teams down there. We played IMG Academy, we played Spates, we played Miami Prep. So we played a lot of good teams, and we ended up going 5-1 down there. So it was pretty good.
And how did you go personally?
I did all right. I got a college coach interest from playing down there, so it was pretty good.
That's outstanding. Now tell me, Christmas is coming up. What's Spire got organised for you, given you're going to be away from your family?
So I'm actually not at Spire right now. Most of the kids went home, but because of the borders, I wasn't able to go home. But I will be going home for spring break. Right now, I'm staying with my girlfriend and her family. Right now, they're really supportive and helpful during these times. So
that's good. Well, hopefully you have a good time there. Now we have a segment on the Dribble podcast called This or That. You can't sit on the fence. You have to have an opinion. And this week's question is relevant to both America and Australia because Christmas Day is an NBA tradition, but we're yet to head down that path in Australia. Do you like the idea of sport in Australia on Christmas Day, or do you think it's a day that will be left to family?
I think it's a great idea. I'm actually going to a Christmas Day game, and I'm really excited because it's what I love. And just seeing like basketball play at the highest level on Christmas Day, I think is the greatest gift you can get on Christmas Day.
Perfect present one. What game are you going to?
I'm going to the Celtics game.
Perfect.
That's my team.
Well, it's funny because Scott Morrison, the new Wildcats coach over here, was an assistant coach at the Boston Celtics in the past few years. So
yeah.
There's a big link between WA and the Celtics these days. Well, we really hope you enjoy that. We really hope you enjoy Christmas and keep playing really well at the moment once you get back with all your mates to settle back into that season. We hope things continue to go extremely well for you over there. We look forward to one day having you back in Perth, but we hope college certainly becomes the dream that you want it to be and that you continue to excel in basketball around the globe. Thank you very much for joining us, Anthony Gomes.
Thank you, Craig.
Now, for the Perth Lynx, they are yet to play a game, but they will shortly leave for interstate after Christmas. Their season starts on January 2 against Adelaide Lightning, and then they will set up camp in Victorian country town Ballarat until they can host matches in WA. As of recording time, there is still no news on the campaign to have Sammy Whitcomb released from her contract in France so she can play for the Lynx. And it's fair to say we're at this point of the season now where the clock is really ticking and they need to hopefully get that done so she can travel with them and get her career back on court because she wants to be getting games under her belt so she can represent Australia later on this year as well. So that's a really important thing which we'll be following. For Lynx fans, we did ask Basketball Australia if Sammy Whitcomb could come on the Dribble podcast this week, and that request was denied. We will continue to attempt to get that done. So thanks for joining me on the Dribble podcast. Remember, keep logging on to thewest.com.au for all your basketball news and pick up your copy of the West Australian every day. Keep an eye out in the coming days for a feature on Bryce Cotton as part of our series on the best WA athletes of 2021. Thanks to Chris Robinson and Samantha Rogers for all their production work throughout this podcast. Thanks to Trevor Gleeson and Anthony Gomes for their time. Have an outstanding Christmas. It's going to be a scorching day, so enjoy it with all of your family and friends. We will be back next week with more from the Dribble Podcast.